Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of TaskHuman Talks. I'm your host and fellow wellness provider, Jamie Carroll, and I'm really excited about this talk today. I have got Shannon Vitale, an empowering mindset and fitness coach here on the TaskHuman app, and he's here with me from Cambodia to share his story, share with us a little bit about what he does and how he's empowering people out there on the app and where he is in Cambodia as well. So welcome, Shannon. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Jamie, thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yes,
Glad to be here.
absolutely. Okay, I've got so many good questions for you. Let's just dive right in. So I know you're working as a fitness coach and mindset coach as
Mhm.
well, health coach too in Cambodia. You were born in the States. You lived in the
Right.
States for a while, and then you were in the military for about 12 years. So I want to just dive
Mhm.
into your transition story. How did you get out to Cambodia? What's the story?
Yeah, so grew up in Texas pretty much my
Okay.
entire life. So I spent from young age all the way up through high school. So I know Texas pretty much is my hometown. I would call it Katy, Texas, outside of Houston. And then I went straight into the military at actually I had my 18th birthday in the military. So I
Oh,
joined the Air
wow.
Force. So left and went straight into the Air Force. Got stationed in Las Vegas, Nevada. That is not a fun place to be when you're under 21. So
I bet.
I was there for about 4 years and then ended up going to Sumter, South Carolina.
Okay.
Complete opposite. That's like a no man's land, completely dead, very
Yeah.
non-lively town, opposite of Las Vegas. Spent 1 year in Iraq, so I got to have a little bit of a
Wow.
desert tour there. And then basically ended up getting out because I saw around my 10-year mark, I was like, do I want to do this for another 10? Or do I want to stick it out? And that's the halfway point. So if you stick it out till 20, then you get retirement. But I just
Okay.
didn't see myself as being a long time military veteran. So I got
Yeah.
out and transitioned to the corporate world. And that's where I got my first taste of actual travel outside the US besides the tour in Iraq, because that doesn't count. I
Okay.
didn't get to
Yeah.
see much outside that. So it was in that travel that I was doing year to year, like the 2 weeks a month that you get for vacation. That's where I started seeing the bigger global picture and going, okay, there's way more to experiences than just the US. So I want to experience that for more than just 2 weeks a year. So I started researching how I could do that. And that's what took me
Yeah.
out of the US.
Okay, awesome. So you were traveling just on your own. It wasn't like travel for
Right,
work outside of the country. Okay. Okay.
right, right.
And was that the catalyst, would you say, for wanting to quit your corporate job? Was just wanting to travel more?
Yeah, for sure. So I was definitely like, I didn't hate my job. I wasn't in
Yeah.
that category. I was actually quite good at my job. I was in IT, and it was
Okay.
actually just not meaningful, I guess you could say. So it
Right.
was not challenging enough. So all I did was literally look at the next vacation I could take. So I would
Right.
plan all of my year around holidays so I could extend the vacation. And the next country I wanted to go to, I literally became the guy in the office that people were like, where are you going next? So they could live vicariously through my vacations. So I did that for 7 years. And I was like, there's got to be more to it than this. I was definitely the catalyst for sure.
That's amazing. It makes me think too. I feel like so many people like live for the weekend or
Exactly.
live for their next vacation. Like, oh, it's Friday. I can't wait till Saturday. You know what I mean? All of that. So that's great.
Right.
Now, so many people
Yep.
talk about doing this. Like, I'm
Mhm.
just ready to quit my job. I want to blow up my life. They're unhappy. They have that awareness that they are unhappy and they want to make a change,
Mhm.
but then they never do. Like,
Right.
and you probably see this a lot in your coaching business that so many people are like, I'm ready for a change and they talk a lot about it, but then they never take action on it. But you did take action. And what do you think it is that holds other people back from doing that same thing?
It's basically for me, I think it's just a lack of kind of clarity, knowing what you want. And then
Mm,
it's that fear. So a lot of times, the reason we hold back on any action in life is that the unknown is uncertain, and therefore it's very fearful to step out into that. So it's like the old phrase, the devil is better than the devil you don't. So
yeah.
people will hold back because, yeah, that other area out there is extremely challenging, even though it could be your next best life. But since you're familiar with where you're at, there's a certain level of comfort that keeps us
Yeah.
there. And until something,
So
like for
true.
my case, it was I had a dog that I had for 10 years. She had a couple puppies, and I had this dream that I was going to have this lineage of puppies that I was going to keep.
Hmm.
And then she passed away. and I was living in this big house with this dog, and I was still doing these vacations. And I was like, all right, what's the point now? Do I start over with another dog, or should I just cut my losses basically? Also, our job was changing and I didn't want to change jobs. So a lot of things happened at once that kind of gave me a little more leverage to just say, to hell with it, I'm out.
Yeah, I love that too. It's talking about that was a question I had for you too. Like, how did you take care of everything? Because I feel like that can hold people back. I know even for
Mm,
myself, one of the things I've always talked about doing, so I'll just use myself as a prime example, is oh, I want to travel more, or I want to just
mhm.
like buy a tiny home and live in the tiny home. It's what do I do with my house if I want to travel more? Like you have
Right.
all these things suddenly where it's like, but I have this to take care of, or what about my parents
Mhm.
or like my friends, all this stuff. Did you elicit any support? Did anybody help you with all the things that you need to take care of? Or was that just like, how did you navigate that transition?
I'm actually on the other side. So anytime I get an idea or something, I usually just dive in head first and then grow my wings on the way down. So I've always
Okay.
been, I'll analyze the situation, of course, but I don't like to spend a lot of time in analysis paralysis and worrying about the what
Ah,
ifs. So
yeah.
I'm very quick to pull the trigger. So in this case, I did about 3 days worth of research for how I can travel the world and make money. And the
Okay.
first thing that popped up was teaching English. So I was like, okay, I speak English. I can teach English, not a problem. See what the criteria was for that. And I was like, all right, where's the largest arena of teaching English? And it happened to be Southeast Asia. So
Okay.
from quitting my job to actually moving overseas, it was less than 30 days. And then I
Wow.
sold my house a year later. So I worried about the house afterwards.
Okay. And so where did you first go? Where was the first place that you went to?
So I first came actually where I am now. So I was going to join or reverse it. So to teach English here in Southeast Asia and a lot of other places, you
Yeah.
have to have some kind of certification. And
Okay.
one of these certifying agencies is TEFL, Teach English Foreign Language. And they had a course. So I needed to take the course. There are some places in the US. And I was like, okay, where can I take the course and get a job like afterwards? And I researched a
Mhm.
couple companies, and there was a company here, well,
Okay.
they're not here anymore, that
Yeah.
did your 30-day instructor course, and then they helped you find a job afterwards. So my goal was actually to live in Thailand
Okay.
because I knew there was a large expat population and I had
Right.
visited Thailand before. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. I've been there before. I enjoyed 2 weeks of vacation there. Sure, I'll go
Yeah.
teach there. But the course was taught in Cambodia. And
Okay.
then after being here for 30 days during that course, actually within 2 weeks, I just decided I'll just stay here. It's right next door. It's actually
Right.
cheaper. There's no big deal. I'll just stay in Cambodia.
Okay, that was gonna be my question. How did you end up in Cambodia? One of
Yeah.
the things you said too that brought you there was luck, circumstances, and a bunch of bad choices. I want to know about the bad
Yeah.
choices. What kind of things were you?
Yeah.
What decisions were you making? What do you mean
So
by
it
that?
goes back to the dog circumstance as well. So
Yeah.
like I had my dog died. I was in some relationships that were spiraling like out of control. I
Yeah.
say relationships because it was more than one. So that didn't work out too well. I had a couple friends that had moved out of the area that, I no longer hung out with. And then, like I said, the job that I was doing, I had switched jobs and then saw it going in a direction that I didn't want it to go.
Mm,
So I say all these bad choices because I look at life as a choice. So everything you do, no matter what happens, you
mm,
created the circumstance yourself. You have to just I own that and say that there were bad choices in the regard that they weren't going in the direction that I wanted to, even though they fulfilled a purpose, so to speak. Like the job wasn't bad, the
right.
location wasn't bad, but I just
Yeah.
started looking at my life in the long-term vision, going, okay, this is not the direction I want.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to get back to that at some point during this conversation. But one thing I do want to talk
Mhm.
about is one thing you mentioned is analysis paralysis, like getting
Mm.
stuck in analysis paralysis. Say a little bit more about.
Okay, so for me, what that means is whenever you're faced with a choice or decision,
Okay.
our mind inevitably starts to tread through all the worst possible outcomes. That's actually like a
Yeah.
defense mechanism for the lizard brain. So it's trying to find all the reasons to keep you safe. So your brain does a good job at giving you fearful outcomes so that you stay
Right.
safe in your comfort zone. So that analysis paralysis actually means that you continue to analyze all these possible circumstances and only the negative ones, and then you just get paralyzed by fear. So literally the best thing you can do is just take action and not even think about what if, because you'll learn along the way. So one of my mentors says it's better to go 1,000 miles per hour in the wrong direction because you're gaining knowledge that entire time than it is to stand still. Because once you stop and pivot, you'll have all that data you gathered and you'll just skyrocket past the point where you were stuck, so to speak.
Okay. I love this because this has to do with that fear that you were talking about. Is like
Hmm.
why people talk about things, don't make the
Hmm.
decisions to actually do something is because they're staying stuck in the fear, which is that analysis paralysis. So your
Correct.
tips for people navigating this, is it just
Mhm.
do it, or just make
Yeah.
a decision? Yeah.
Yeah, as funny as it sounds, it's literally that easy. The best course of action for fear is to move forward, is to take action. So if
Yeah.
you're analyzing a couple of different things and you're like, I don't know if I should do this, and you've already done your pros and cons list and you've talked to friends and you're literally at a standstill, let's just say everything is even and there's no definitive winner, then
Right.
literally you can just flip a coin because no matter what, your circumstance won't change unless you make a decision.
Right. And okay, so that's a good point too. Because one of the things I'm thinking of is I know some people out there, like I think of my dad, who's always, you got to weigh, you got to look at your
Mhm.
decisions. You can't just go in and buy the first car that you see or do this and
Right.
that or throw a pen at a map and just go there. You have to like think about all these things. So
Mhm.
is it just that we don't have to think about and weigh these options, or do we need to know that? And then once we know that, okay, either decision I make is just going to keep me stuck, and then the map, what is your thought around
Yeah.
that for people who might be like, no, you do need to make you think about it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. There are some things that you would want to think about, and that would
Right.
the ones that require thought and an actual analysis and pros and cons are the ones that could have a real detrimental outcome. Like, for
Yeah. Okay.
example, a relationship or buying a car you can't
Right.
afford or something like that. But if it's just a hypothetical fearful outcome, like public speaking, like what's the worst that could happen in public speaking is you just make a fool of yourself, but by the next day, everybody forgot. So some of these things we just make up in our head. Those are the ones where it's just, yeah, pull the trigger, get it over with, and don't worry about it. But if there's legitimate, real world impact to yourself or your physicality, I would say, or
Mhm.
even your loved ones, then of course in that situation you do want to weigh the pros and cons. But if it's for travel, yeah, you can throw a pin at a map because
Yeah.
what's the
Because
point? As
you
long as you got
learn.
the money to get
Yeah.
there, yeah, that's it.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. I love that. And I love that clarity around that too, for
Mhm,
when to just make those fast decisions. Okay, so let's go back to your kind of journey to Cambodia and what you're doing now.
mhm,
So I know that you own a gym there. What
mhm.
was the fitness world like?
Wow. So it was actually like a kind of back to the future kind of nostalgia. Growing up in the US, we've been
Yeah,
inundated with health and fitness since the golden age of bodybuilding. So we
right.
can thank Arnold Schwarzenegger for getting us into doing push ups and crunches in gym class at sixth grade, fourth grade. So all that stuff has always been around. I
Yeah.
remember when I brought this stuff out here, I remember in my PE classes, like climbing ropes and doing some gymnastics and doing line dancing for learning how to do line dancing for country
Yeah.
music, just like all sorts of versatility in PE. That's my point. So I come out here and it's literally no foundation for that whatsoever. So I say it's back to the future because one, PE as a topic in school isn't even taught.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's not even a physical education curriculum in the bulk of the schools. Some of the more prestigious private schools will have something, but by no means does it even get to a fraction of what we got inundated with in our PE classes in the 90s,
Right.
for example. And then the gym side, or actually the fitness side, the most common things that they do is they're actually quite active people.
Okay.
So they do a lot of movement throughout the day and walk, and they'll get up in the early mornings and do some walking. Like I'm
Okay.
thinking, when I say early, it's like 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. And they'll
Wow.
walk and they'll stretch. Yeah. So they're very active people, but the gym knowledge or anything outside of walking and just moving your body, they didn't really have. So you would go into a gym, for example, and you would find like in an area 10 by 10, you'd find like 10 flat benches
Okay.
because every day was chest day and that's all you would have. So completely lacking any awareness of how to train, why
Yeah.
to train, muscle groups and the physiology of the body, all that stuff.
Okay. And so that's what you're teaching people there that come to your gym space now is really more about the body, how to move and ways to keep
Yeah.
yourself healthy. And your gym space
Mhm.
is called Life Academy. How
Lift academies,
Lift
Lift Academy.
Academy. Type
Yeah.
spelling error or typing error, I should say, on my end there. Lift Academy. And you have a business partner. How did you like find the
Mhm.
space? How did all of that come about?
Okay. So the Lift Academy, I'll just give you the background on that. So it actually stands for Learn and Improve Your Foundation for Transformation. So it's another, I'm big on acronyms. So I like to make acronyms. I like almost
Mhm.
anything. Finding the space was a happenstance, again, pulling the trigger on stuff. So for the first 2 years, I just gave free knowledge in the gym. And
Yeah.
I wasn't even actually a certified personal trainer at that time. I was actually just a classic gym bro from the US. And
Okay.
my gym bro science was enough to get people moving forward here. And then I saw that there was a need for it. And I was like, okay, I need to expand my skill set. I need the
Right.
knowledge and awareness. So I actually got certified around the third year of being out here. And then through that is where I met my partner now, business partner, and now life partner. And I was training her,
Okay.
and she got amazing results and started enjoying the strength side of
Uh-huh.
women's fitness, mental strength and physical strength. And then we saw that there was a complete lack in awareness for women's strength training or just
Yeah.
women's health and fitness. So we decided to put a post out to see how many women would be interested in strength training and developing the body and things of that nature. And that got a lot of publicity. And so from that route, we went into kind of a women's niche
Oh, awesome.
and did that for about 2 years. And we were bouncing around from different gyms
Yeah.
trying to teach these courses at the gym. So we're teaching like a
Okay.
fundamentals course, basic fitness awareness course. And then we just said, this is not working. We need our own space. And then just again, in the span of like 30 days, decided we need a space, started looking around and then got a space very
Wow.
quick.
Yeah, making that decision again. Maybe weighing a
Exactly.
few pros
Yep.
and cons and then making that decision so you don't stay in
Exactly.
that fear mode. I love it. Okay,
Yep.
tell me the acronym again. It's lift, learn and improve your foundation.
Foundation for transformation.
I love that. Okay, I want to make sure I wrote that down. Okay, that's great. And now, so what's the purpose and the vision for Lyft?
So the vision for Lift Academy is holistic self-development and empowerment opportunities for all of Cambodia.
Okay.
So that was the vision before even Lyft was created. So that's
Yeah.
what I was doing with my personal purpose, why I felt like I was here. And then again, the women's courses, I did some self-defense courses for martial arts. I did a lot of
Nice.
stuff around this empowerment idea. And
Okay.
then Lyft came from that. And that's kind of what I guess solidified that vision. So I'm looking at trying to make this into a wellness brand that I can actually satellite out because again, here in Cambodia, it's very people are condensed in one area. You have to actually make more satellite facilities to reach people because my training model is not like a typical gym. I do small group personal training. So my
Okay.
largest class will be no more than 12 people. So in order for me to reach all of Cambodia, I'll have to have a lot of satellite facilities to
Right.
make that happen.
Okay, so so it's so much more than just fitness. Like
Yes.
working out, I should say, what
Mhm.
people traditionally think of going to the gym and working out. And I love that you're also bringing this to the TaskHuman app now so you can reach even more people all over the
Mhm.
world. So it's more than
Right.
just, hey, let me take you through a workout, count your reps and sets and get you
Right.
strong. It's also about that empowerment piece. So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit more about that empowerment piece of it.
Okay, so for me, that's actually the bread and butter. So most
Yeah,
people approach their wellness fitness journey because they mainly want to either look or feel better. So it's an aesthetic thing or even an
right.
internal intrinsic feeling thing. But the piece that's missing that stopped them from getting there is not a lack of knowledge. Like the day and age we live in now, there is just a plethora of amazing content from really
Yeah,
knowledgeable sources, far better than myself, that's out there completely for free.
right.
So the old saying goes, if more knowledge was the answer, we'd all have six-pack abs and have $1 million because all that
Right.
information's there. So
Yeah.
the piece that people need is back to that fear and back to that analysis paralysis and that empowering mindset. So it's like, what's holding them back so that we can help them move forward and actually take action? Because once you start taking action, you get the momentum and you'll stick with it. So I focus primarily on, we have a phrase here about building the body through the mind or building the mind through the body, I should say. So
Okay.
we tackle people's physical appearance, but just the ability of lifting weights is a mindset development because you're going to approach weights in the beginning that you cannot lift. And the
Yeah.
only way you will lift them is through repeatedly trying to lift them, which is the
Yeah.
same as mindset development. You're going to approach tasks you can't do if you continue to persevere, you'll eventually get over that task. So I just use it as a training tool to help empower people's mindsets and look for other opportunities in their life to use that strength.
Okay, I think that's great because in the fitness world, there is so many like 90-day transformations, quick
Mhm,
fixes, do this diet plan or this workout plan for a month and
mhm,
all these promises. And so your thought around that is more is adding in that empowerment and mindful piece to it. So,
mhm.
because a lot of people will start something and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to do that 90-day transformation or whatever, that quick
Right,
fix. And then they're done and they're still stuck in the same place, or
right.
they start a workout program and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it all year," but then they fizzle out after 90 days or so, or even 30 days in some cases.
Mhm.
What advice or tips would you give to people who may be in that space? "Oh, I started a workout program and now it's hard to get up in the mornings. I don't want to do it anymore." Do you have a tip or anything you can share
Mm.
with people out there that may be experiencing that?
Yeah. So with those, it typically comes down to what was the reason you
Mm,
decided to join something like that. So again, if most people, when you talk to them, they're tackling that superficial reason for tackling a 90-day or 30-day program. So it's okay, I want to just drop 10 pounds because I have this event coming up, or because I want to go here for this thing. So there's no long-term sustainability in it, because once you get to that, you're naturally going to fizzle out, because your goal that you set for yourself
right,
was very short term and very, like I said, superficial. So what
right.
I try to get to people whenever I talk to them is I try to dig deeper and find out what the actual root cause is, so we can get
Mm,
more leverage on them creating a sustainable lifestyle out of it. And then that mindset comes in, so that it says, okay, when you do at the 90-day mark fall off the wagon because this is a new habit,
right.
don't worry about it. That's natural. You've already built the mindset that says, okay, this is just a slight bump in the road. I still have this long term goal that I know will
Mhm.
require many more months, years to attend, or to make it to. And this is actually part of my identity. So when you shift the mindset and make it a part of who you
Mm.
are, then you no longer do it because it's just a short term goal. It's because it's a part of who you are. And without it, you feel like you're not being authentic, is the best way to describe it. So it goes back to discipline in a reality.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you're feeling stuck, it's like really
Hmm.
uncover what your root cause is, what your root why is, that those
Hmm.
long-term goals that are
Right.
now a part of who you are, of your personality, of your
Yeah.
lifestyle, of your
Right.
new way of being. So you're not frazzled by that bump in the road,
Right.
so to speak, and you
Right.
keep going. I love that. That's a great
Exactly.
tip. Awesome. Okay. One thing you say too is that you're not a typical gym. You're not a CrossFit gym or a typical gym. I love that. You're a results driven gym.
Hmm.
So, say more about that? What do you mean by the results driven? What do you mean by not a CrossFit gym?
Yeah. So even the name we picked, so that's why we picked Lift Academy. So I was
Yeah.
trying to find a name that wasn't fitness center, that wasn't gym, and that kind of
Yeah.
represented the knowledge, the empowerment side. So academies are elite training facilities with specificity. So you go to a flight academy to learn aerial stuff, or you go to aquatics for swimming, or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
they have a specific goal. So we started with that to make sure that it did separate us. And then in the training space, you can actually see it in the image behind me.
Yeah.
We, instead of it being just like a typical Gold's Gym 24-hour fitness or anything like that, where it's just a bunch of equipment and that
Mhm.
everybody comes to, one of the first posts I put out is one, we aren't going to charge you for a membership that you don't use. So I hate that gym model that we have in the US, where
Yeah.
they can only fit about 200 people on the floor, but they sell 2,000 memberships because they know it's so cheap that you won't use it and you don't mind wasting the money. So
Right.
we built into our model that we give refunds. So for any reason, if you just want to quit, you don't like the training space, you're moving, whatever it is, we'll refund your money. So if you pay for a year and you use 1 week, we refund the other 51 weeks. If at some stage you just go, I hate Coach Shannon, he's too hard on me, I want to leave, again, we'll refund your money. So there's we call it a no BS results guarantee. And then also, if you do what I say and it doesn't work after 90 days, you can get your money back as well. But that requires them to track the nutrition and actually show up to all the classes. So I do make that one a little harder. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Well,
where the
absolutely.
results
You want to make
driven personality
sure.
comes from.
Yeah. You want to make sure people are actually taking action for themselves too. Okay. One of the things that you said too that I wanted to touch on is you said
Mhm.
that every like life is a choice and you own that. Do you think that people today, like one of the things I notice is that we're not taking responsibility for ourselves. Like we don't take
Mhm.
responsibility for our actions.
Yes.
It's like we're victims sometimes to like our circumstances.
Mhm.
But it sounds like you really believe that those circumstances were our choice. And
Yes,
I
100%.
follow a similar thought pattern to that as well. But I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about that. Like, how can we start taking more responsibility? Because sometimes if our circumstance is really bad and we don't want to take responsibility for that, if I did that to myself, no way. Why would I choose
Right.
that? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
say more.
that's a great place to go because, yeah, especially right now, there is a
Yeah.
global circumstance
Yeah.
happening. And obviously, none of us created it ourselves. We are living in it. But it goes back to the empowering mindset side. You can choose to say, life is happening to me or for me. So you get the choice. No matter what, every action that comes out, every choice you have, you get to pick. So, no, everything that you do throughout your life is always a choice, even if there are external circumstances. The one thing you have control over every single time is your response to those circumstances. And that's what I mean by choice. So we can take the COVID example. And
Mhm.
yes, it's definitely crippled a lot of people, and
Yeah.
people have lost loved ones and all that stuff like that. But your response to that is still your choice. That's the
Right.
part
Yeah.
that people forget about. And then when you give that up and you take the victim role or you blame something, then you're actually giving the power away, meaning you no longer have any control over your life to actually change it in the direction that you want because you haven't acknowledged the fact that you do have a choice to pivot or to pick yourself back up or to look at that circumstance, no matter how bad it was, and go, okay, what can I learn from it? What was positive about it? Because no matter what the circumstances were, there's always something you can find that you can learn from or that you can even reframe in your
Yeah.
head and say what was great about this, and then by reframing it you now have a different reference to it, and then you can actually move forward again.
Yeah. And so it's if you are finding yourself in a circumstance that you don't like, and it's like, oh,
Mhm.
how did I get myself here? Because I did get myself here. It's just looking at how you
Mhm.
are going to respond to it now and
Correct.
changing that response to put you in more control of where you're going to go next. I
Yep.
love that. Okay. I just want to look through my notes. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think we covered it all. Oh, I did. We talked a lot about failure already and fear, but I think you say
Mhm.
failure is one of your core values. Is that right? Do I have that
Yes.
right? And that's what
Yeah.
I want to talk about too. I want to make sure I don't miss that because I feel like that is so like can be counterintuitive, right? Like, why do I
Right.
want to make failure one of my core values? So why did
Right.
you guys
Right.
make failure one of your core
Because
values?
it goes back to the acronyms again. So for us,
Yeah.
failure or fail is first attempt in learning. So it goes back to reframing and looking at failure and what that actually provides for you. So a lot of people view failure as the end of something. It's like, okay,
Right.
I tried these things and now it's the end. But you can take the analogy if you're familiar with machine learning and code. What they do is they give the machine a set of instructions and
Okay.
just the parameters of a box, so to speak, and then the machine goes about discovering how to build itself in those parameters. Multiple times it will run something that will terminate or fail, but it just takes that as, oh, don't go that direction, go this direction.
Okay.
So machines don't actually have a word for failure because the code will just continue to run and evolve until it gets the outcome that it wants. And so we should look at failure the same way. So the reason we have it as a core value, because if you come to us, one is perfect example is lifting weights, and
Yeah.
you failed to lift that weight at that particular time, good. That means we found your new baseline or thing that you can cross or break through. So if you can't do your body weight deadlift
Hmm.
yet, great. That's the next level that we can get to. And if you keep trying, you will get there because that's just how the body adapts and overcomes. So if you're not trying, then you're not failing. And if you're not failing, then what's the point? Because you're not growing. So you can't grow
Yes.
without failure. So we put that in there because they're actually necessary for growth. So that's why it became one of our core values.
And I love that as a core value too, because the more you remind yourself of that, I feel
Mhm.
like the easier it's going to become, the more you accept it and embrace it. You know what I mean? And not make
Right.
it like this thing to be like this taboo thing of, oh,
Right.
I want to fail. I don't want to talk about that. Like the shameful thing. It doesn't have to be shameful. One of
Right.
the things I wrote down when you were talking is we have to fail in order to know where to go. So I like that example of
Mhm.
using weights because it's like, yeah, if you can't
Mhm.
lift that, okay, now we know where you got to stop at, where that's not going to work.
Right.
So now we know where to go from there. Yeah, that's just a really cool perspective and a way to shift it into a better mindset and put it as your core value. So I thought that that was really interesting. So I love that. And now you're working
Yeah,
as a
we
coach.
try.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I
Oh,
said, yeah, we try to have meetings every week where I
yeah.
actually ask the team, what did you fail at this week? And I actually got this from,
Great.
I want to say it was Jay Samit. He's an entrepreneur, somebody else. So it's not mine, but he actually will, at the end of the year or every 6 months, I can't remember, he will ask his team, where did they fail? And they have to have a certain amount of failures. And if not, he'll actually fire them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So when you talk about that, though, I'm curious when you're asking your team, okay, where did you fail? And then they
Mhm.
tell you, is there, okay, so now you're troubleshooting. Where do you go from there?
So the first step is celebrating the failure. So it's about that reframing. It's good. You
Oh,
tried something new. And what did you learn from it? So most of the
okay.
time, people will already have the answers. But again, we have that fear of failure and we have that fear of being judged when we fail.
Right.
So
Yeah.
nobody wants to own up to it. But if you're celebrated for your failure, and then someone asks you, what did you learn from it? It's like, oh, I did this and that didn't work. So next time I won't do that. I'm going to try this instead. Like you already have the feedback as long as you just
Yes.
look at it as feedback versus an ending point. And then the whole team, when you celebrate and share that, can actually grow from that person's failure as well. So the more people
Love
that are
this.
failing, ironically, the more the group moves forward faster.
And really tuning into that vulnerability around that because this can
Right.
happen so much when it comes to making lifestyle changes and habit changes when it
Mhm.
comes to wellness and even fitness. For me, one of the things I tried doing a long time ago is I was going to get up and do a 5 a.m. yoga class every 3 times a week with some friends. And every
Right.
time my alarm would go off, I was like, nope, not doing it. But I would keep trying. I would keep being like, oh, I'll do it next time. I'll do it next time. And then it was like, okay, I'm just not going to do it. So some people may stop there and be like, okay,
Mhm.
you know what? Working out just isn't for me. I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
I can't do it. But maybe you just need to acknowledge that 5 a.m. is not your time. And maybe
Right. Exactly.
9 a.m. is your time. So troubleshooting
Right.
that and celebrating that, I
Yep.
think that is fantastic. I'm going to start
Yeah.
asking people that
That's
all the time now too and using it for
it's good.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great. And so you're working as a coach on TaskHuman as well. And so tell us what kind of things are you helping people with on TaskHuman? Obviously, the workouts and fitness piece of it, but also
Mhm.
it's so much more than that for you. So I want you to share a little bit about that, how you're working with people
Right.
there.
So it's an amazing platform. Ironically, it came across like I'm here in Cambodia, so I actually
Yeah,
saw a post in our group, a health and fitness group that I created. Actually,
I love
ironically,
it.
so I'm the admin of the group 5 years ago, and just saw this post, and I was like, didn't know what it was, but again, I'm quick to pull the trigger, so that's
Hmm.
what I did. I saw the post, and it's like looking for so and so and so. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll find out. And then about a week later, I'm on the platform, and I still didn't really know what it was. So I
Yeah.
just like to dive in. That's the best way to learn. And
Yeah.
so in that learning experience, I've gotten now clients that I talk to on a regular basis from India, Bucharest, Singapore, US. And yeah, it covers a lot. So it's based on the skills that I put out there. So a lot of it is not a lot. I'd say half is about exercise, physical home body exercise, which is what a lot of people are looking for after this during this
Yeah.
COVID pandemic. Makes a lot of sense. And then some of it I've had is literally the mindset coaching side, helping people overcome limiting beliefs. Or one person actually was talking about the fear of, he has a perfectionist side. So he only wants to do things if he can look his absolute best. And I'm
Ah,
actually helping him walk through that by helping him understand fear of failure, leaning on other people for support. You don't have to do everything yourself, all that stuff. So it's a really amazing to get to put all these skills together and then just see clients. Like that's the reason why we all coach, is to perceive that the knowledge and skills you've acquired will help someone just take that little step forward. You may not get them to the finish line, but you at least help them over the next hurdle where maybe the next coach can come in and take them from there. And that's just the most rewarding part. And that's the reason why I like the platform so much, because it keeps me on my game. And then I get to
yeah.
learn more through these constant
Yeah.
interactions.
I love it. And it's like helping people and empowering them through fear and failure and
Mhm.
fitness. The 3 Fs.
Right.
I just thought of
Exactly.
something new. Yeah. Feel, fire, and
I
fitness.
like
I
it.
love it. So awesome. So if you're out there and you're needing some empowerment or you're experiencing limiting beliefs, make sure you reach out to Shannon and elicit his support because he's definitely here to help
Mhm.
you no matter where you are in the world. Do you have anything else, Shannon, that you want to share with anybody out there that's listening?
No, I think that about wraps it up for me.
Yeah,
You covered quite a broad amount of topics. So yeah,
you
just
got it
you see me on
down.
the platform, yeah, shoot me a message. I'll be happy to help.
Yes, absolutely. And I just have one more question for you. Would you say that you are living your dream life right now?
Very close. So my dream is still going to be more travel. So I want to
Okay.
turn this business into a location independent business
I
so
love
that
it.
I can actually do it from anywhere. But right now I have to actually do the hands-on side. It's moving in the right direction
That was
for
going to
sure.
be my last question. So I guess that wasn't the last question. The for real last question is what's next for you? And it sounds like you want to travel a little bit more and
Yeah.
keep changing the world with what you're doing, which I think is amazing.
Right.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining me today, Shannon. It was such a pleasure talking to you and learning a little bit more about your story and your transition out to Cambodia. So, best of luck there. Make sure if you're listening here on TaskHuman, you are reaching out to Shannon. He's really awesome, really amazing, is definitely going to be able to help you with
Thanks.
everything that you need. So, that's it for today. Thanks again. And thank you so much for listening. Until next time. Bye, Shannon.
See you guys.